Well, after a tasty first round in this championship, V1 Malta returned with an absolute bang in the reverse circuit at Zandvoort only a week ago. But now, after that tasty affair, they're hungry for more as we take a trip to the Hungaroring for this next round of the V1 Malta Series on Formula 1 2025. It is myself, James Otter, alongside Adam Reed, usual co-commentary pairing for this championship. Adam, cracking race it was last time out, of course. A real mixed bag at the reverse circuit and a reverse of fortunes for some, but what was in the end a very, very good result for many.
Of course, hi James. Zandvoort was definitely a trip in the dark for a lot of drivers. Of course, looking at the results here, it was Matthew Cassar who came out on top on that one. A fantastic result for the Mercedes driver, Andrea Borsch taking second place, as well as Alexander Galea. Both Williams getting a double point finish, as well as Racing Bulls. That would have been a good positive to the as well as Alpine. Sorry, my apologies. That's Andrea Borsch having the fastest lap. So yeah, only three teams managing to get double points, that being Mercedes included. But we come to a very, very difficult circuit in the Hungaroring, known to be very, very twisty, known to be very, very minimal overtakes. It's going to be a really, really tough journey for a lot of these drivers. And of course, whatever happens right here in these standings, don't just sit with it, because it's going to be changing all season long.
Yes, that's the critical thing, isn't it? And of course, after that fantastic race in the end, of course, Matthew Cassar leading the way with those 25 points for the race victory. Andrea Borg managing to get the 18. Of course, he doesn't get the fastest lap point. That doesn't exist in F1 now as of this season. Alexander Galea managing to get the 15 points for P3. Excuse me. David Misford and Michael McCullen doing a decent job as well with 4th and 5th for the Williams outfit. Emerson Zarb 6th with Christian Kermy, Samuel Borge. Then you've got Kirsten Kumi and then Epron Taboum wrapping out those in the top 10. You know what? A fabulous, fabulous event it was at Zandvoort. We move on to the Hungaroring, though, of course. It is that 14-turn circuit with 35 laps. We're expecting that times in the roundabout of the 1 minute 17s, 1 minute 17.2, the lap record sent by Ryan Carabot, the last year's winner as well in season number 7. But you mentioned there, Adam, it is not known for its overtaking as the Hungaroring, but when you've got equal cars and when you've got drivers that are very in close proximity to each other, as in the V1 Malta Series, I think overtaking potentially will be an occurrence. I'm thinking turn 1, I'm thinking turn 2. Could be a bit of a risky move around turn 4. Certainly, though, turn 12 will be one to watch as well.
Yeah, indeed, you've got so many overtaking well, I see you got so many, but yeah, turn one's going to be the main hotspot for overtaking opportunities. A lot of them are just trying to survive with the tyres, especially, you got the likes of 6 all the way down to 11, and then 12 down over to 14. That's going to really just burn up the tyres as well. So you're really going to have to keep those tyres in check as well. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of medium to hard, and maybe vice versa in terms of strategy. But yeah, I think that a lot of drivers will be out for vengeance in terms of this one. Of course, Andrea Borsch being one of them. Yeah, he got held up in the pit by his own teammate back last week at Zandvoort, so he'll be looking to try and get something from this event, as well as Daniel Chinny, a retirement there for the Scuderia Ferrari driver. And unfortunately for him, he gained 0 points from that Zandvoort round. But his podium in season 6, which was the 3rd place behind Adrian Manduka and Ryan Carabot, was certainly ones to keep an eye out for.
Certainly indeed. So that's the Hungaroring. Of course, we'll be taking further trips in a couple of weeks' time to Austria and Italy, where we've got some really, really intense racing ahead of us as well. But I think the Hungaroring is going to be one of the bigger challenges of this particular calendar. So that will be one to watch. I am going to be keeping a firm eye, I think, on turn number 2 and 3, because that's usually where we see people going side by side in the equal cars. In non-equal cars, it's less common. But in equal cars, turn 2, turn 3 could certainly be somewhere where we are going to be really hammering our way through. We are going to be taking a very quick break before we head over to qualifying for the Hungaroring and round number 2 of season 8 of the V1 Malta Series. Don't go away. We're live then for this qualifying of round number 2 of season 8 of the V1 Malta series. This is a series by Velocity Sports Racing, brought to you by Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and the Specialist for what will be no doubt a particularly interesting set of events here, Adam, because of course qualifying is a pretty critical part of this particular race. Again, not known for its overtaking. We should expect some overtaking with the equal cars, but it's so critical that these drivers qualify very well at this circuit.
Yeah, it's one of those circuits in the F1 calendar where qualifying is going to be absolutely pivotal. It's going to be one of the days in the season where you've really got to be on your game here, and we know that a lot of our drivers are decently qualified but could be able to be better in the race. So, into these early stages, of course, our drivers will be doing their first runs in these early stages, and you're just looking to try and scope out the track. See if there's anything you notice where you maybe gain an extra tenth or two. And it looks like Dave Potsy is going to be running his way over the start-finish line and on towards turn number 1 here as he heads his way into that very, very tight first corner. It's going to be a really tricky one, especially on the exit of turn 1 where it just starts going downhill, and especially with the DRS zone where it's just on the exit there. You're going to have to try and open the flap as early as you possibly can, but also you've got to manage your throttle input here, because too much throttle, an open DRS, you're spinning around into a barrier and costing yourself a lot of hefty time.
Let's say David Misford there, not really putting too much effort through turn 4, so he's not looking to set the timing boards alight here, but just gets a decent lap time on the board. Remember, this is a short qualifying event, so this will be just the 18 minutes to determine the grid ahead of us here. Here he comes then through the next set of S's, through this left-hander, then through the right. You want to try and keep on the power as much as you can. And then he'll approach now the infamous corner where we, I believe, saw Kimi Räikkönen go for a little bit of a drift around there. I believe in 2015 it was. Turn 13 then through the left-hander as well. Looking pretty sharp indeed here, as then Williams is looking like he wants to set the early precedent. Not going to get too much of the understeer through the car in front of him. But here he comes then across the line, will Dave Potts, and goes fastest of anyone so far with a 1:15.7. Though plenty of lap time still on the board. Next person to set a lap, I believe, will be one of the Red Bulls, if I'm not mistaken, unless that was an outlap. I believe it was an outlap from him, actually. Oh, he's gone for a spin, though, in the final sector. Jake Cars, he was on a hot lap, unfortunately for him, and he loses it by the looks of things at the final corner. People getting caught out by that one. Rocket probably did. 1:18.216 for him. We've got a Mercedes coming across the line imminently as well, I believe, to set a lap. It's Matthew Cassard. Yesterday's last week's winner with a 1:15.878, but Daniel Gaming immediately showing his worth. Great lap in time indeed. Initially out the blocks, 1:15.6.
Good stuff there from Daniel Chinny. He really needed to put the gauntlet down early and prove to a lot of drivers that he's back for a vengeance after his DNF at Zandvoort in reverse. There is a brand new driver in Neil Kassar. He is at the moment now put himself up into 5th place ahead of his teammate Simon Nechev as Andrea Borg now put the gauntlet even further down into the ground, and he goes just over a tenth faster than Daniel Chinny. So both the Alpine and the Ferrari drivers are looking very, very possibly into a good spot. Look at Alexander Galaya, the reigning champion there in P4 as well. So the McLarens are running really, really strong. But we do appear to have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, we have 7 different teams in the top 7.
That checks out. It looks like that to me as well, which is a particularly good set of events as well for this particular championship, if all of the teams are all in a real mixed bag, to be honest with you. Andrea Borg looking to try and set an early precedent, of course. P2, unlucky to get P2 last time out, of course, after being caught in the pits. So definitely opportunity knocks for the man finishing 2nd place in the race a week ago, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Here is Koshecki as well. That's the Aston Martin of Adam Koshecki, looking to set sort of some early inroads, you'd have to say, for the Aston Martin, as well as he's just now approaching the final corner of turn number 14, and he will get going on his lap, and hopefully we could go on board with him, because he'd be very keen to just go on a lap with you, Adam, as we'll have a blissful conversation about the lap with you.
Indeed, down in towards turn number 1, get the car rotated absolutely beautifully and then tries to paddle the exit there, but it gets a little bit of wheel spin. Then in towards turn number 2 you go, it's completely downhill, so you're working with gravity here, get the car rotated, the tyre temperature will start to warm up here. In towards turn number 3 is completely flat, it's not even a corner in these machines, and now you're heading riding up the hill, blind crest in towards 4. Now you're tipping it back to the left-hand side to rotate it in towards 5. Purple sector for Adam Qureshi in toward the 6th and 7th chicane. So right down, but too much curve, I think, there for Qureshi. And he turns away now in towards the sweep. Oh. The rear is gone now, and that's not the best way to finish that lap time off. But I'm sure we'll have to go again. But actually, we've got a teammate here of Christian Kurmi. So let's try and finish the lap with this Aston Martin this time around. So no yellow flag, so we'll continue out here, trying to push on a little bit of a lap, get a little bit of a wiggle as well. So the rear isn't quite compliant with the car, but in towards that right hander, it looks so strong in towards 11, and in towards turn 12, braking very late here, and then Kurmi will brake in towards 30. There's a little dab on the brake, about 50% of your full brake bar, and then you're in towards turn 40. Get the car rotated around and on towards the main straight. Over time in line, where will he go? Only to P9, so that's the fifth of the grid along. So Simeon Nechev, and that is pretty much a lap of the Hungary ring, just having to change drivers midway through.
Yeah, having to switch drivers as well as he was driving past his teammate Kosheki as he actually ploughed it straight into the pit lane entry wall. He's lucky to still actually be part of this qualifying session as his teammate down in P15. 3 laps still yet to be done down on the bottom of the field. We've got the Haas driver of Daniel Galea. We've also got the McLaren of Isaac Barbara as well as, would you believe, the Mercedes of Kirsten Kumi. He joins a little bit late into this session, so he's only just got into his car, and now he is getting going. A big tank slapper from David Misford, managing to hold that really well as he comes through the chicane. He's not going to get blocked, hopefully, by that Aston Martin on the outside, but easily done through here as the Atlassian Williams Racing Mercedes keeps the car planted through the left-hander, through the right-hander. Keep on the power as early as you can. Go a little bit wide. Very handily taken on that white line as he comes now into turn number 12. Again, take a little bit of that curve. Don't put too much power out. Then go into 13. You'll want to try and get a later apex if you can, because you can power out of this corner a lot earlier, and that's exactly what Misford has done. And then coming across the final corner then, and the Williams will be hoping to set the timing boards alight. Will be able to beat Andrea Borgia towards the front. We'll see as he comes across the line. He has improved on his lap, but not on his position. He stays P3.
Yeah, an okay lap there from him. And let's have a look to see what Matthew Kassar can do, because he's really one of those drivers that hopes to put in a decent result in this one with 9 minutes left to go. So I think this is a lot of drivers doing their second runs here in qualifying, really running the limits of turn number 11. That's how you're going to maximize your time around this circuit. It's just maximizing every single entry, every single exit, every single kiss of the apexes as well. You're really having to link up the lap here around the Hungary ring, but Kassar will round that final corner. He had to really set the timing sheet to light here as he goes over the line, but that is a P2 spot there for Matthew Kassar. Superb job there, but it's still not done and dusted just yet.
One person we haven't really spoke about in this one, and well thought, by the way, by the director, because I was just about to mention him, Alexander Galea. That's the champion of last time out. He's only in P5. He's down by just a little bit under 4/10 of a second to Andrea Borg. So definitely more lap time to find for this McLaren Mercedes. Of course, the team winning their championship last time out doesn't take that much of a exit, so he's gotten on with his outlap now, and he's going to get going now, is the champion, and we'll see what his lap time is going to be like, because of course there's definitely a lot more time to be found than the 1:15.8 that he's got. Is the world champion of last time out, third place of course last time out in the race at reverse Sandvort. Here it comes then through turn number 3. Keep the car as planted as you can, take the wider line, so then you can take this further inside line. And I tell you what, his first sector not particularly clean, but it is a little bit faster.
It is indeed, and he's just trying to negotiate the circuit at the moment through turn number 5. You've got to be so careful through that corner, because if you tap that curve on the right hand side, that can very easily spin you off. A big chunk of curb in towards 7 as he follows his way through 8 and 9, keeping the car nice and smooth through these sequence of corners. Then Alevi had to really attack it. There's a bit of a lift through that corner, the tail of the car wagging away, but he's nearly 0.3 of a second up here as he gets pushed down to P6 there by the Red Bull of Jake Meljak. And really intrigued to see what Meljak can do, as he unfortunately finished 12th last time at Zandvoort. But smoking here with Alexander Galea, he's going to get a bit of a slipstream there from the Aston Martin. Is it going to be pole? It is provisional pole position for Alexander Galea, and a 1:15.443. But what about Daniel Chini over the line? He goes P2 by 2,000 of a second. These are the margins these drivers are playing at the moment.
Absolutely fabulous indeed. As Andrea Borgia did have pole position at one point. Is he going to reclaim it? He certainly will. 1:15.362. Absolutely brilliant lap for the man, finishing P2 overall in the last race. And of course, Lesu himself, the champion, will be a bit disappointed that he's just missed out on that one. But still a bit of time to go. 6 minutes in this one. Here's Jake Cos. He spun out earlier on. Will he be able to improve? Here he comes across the line. Oh, it's a 27.5. It looks like a cool push here for the Red Bull, as he's now just getting started with his lap. Here's the Williams of McMullen. That's Michael Misford McMullen. He's going through turn 1. Looks like he's on an in lap now. Not sure about Jake Cos at the moment. It looks like he is on a lap, but he has burned through a considerable amount of his ERS here, so I would suspect he's surely going to be in at the end of this lap.
He will be. I definitely think that a lot of these drivers are still working the steering wheel. Still thinking they've got a little bit of time left on the ball, because, of course, he's still got to empty the fuel. He's still got a couple of setup changes. Look at Jake Meljak there. He tries to get that car into the circuit. It looks like it's a very rear loose car then. So he's kind of put it on the setup, on the nose. So it gets it rotated.
Oh, it's gone again.
That's exactly what it's done.
Well held.
Yeah. I kind of expected that to happen, in all honesty. That setup just looked way too loose, in all honesty, and I think only probably an eSport Pro can and maybe just about handle that, and even then they might even do a little bit of complaining on that one. I think I'd love to see Max Verstappen try that one, in fact.
Well, Jake Malak there doing a semi-decent job at holding that one, but it looks to me as if his suspension is set a little bit too stiff and his ride height's a little bit too low, so it can't do any of the undulation off the curbs, and then when he ends up being on the curves, he ends up bottoming out. So that Red Bull not particularly set up to his liking, that's for certain. Here's the other Mercedes, by the way. That is Kirsten Kumi. Now, he came later to this session, so he's just about to start with his first lap with a 17.0, so it is a little bit of an early sort of setter, but he is well out of sync with everyone else now. He needs to get to the pits pronto here and get another set of boots on and have another go, and he's losing the rear already just on this in lap. It's very peculiar from the Mercedes. He's now going to struggle his way back to the pits, get a fresh set of boots on and have another go at this one. Here is the kick Sauber then of Neil Kassar, who comes then at the top of the hill, 6.5 seconds down, so he's on an in lap himself.
He is, and it does seem like Neil Kassar is just trying to hustle that car around. I'm not entirely sure if he's what he's doing, because of course he did show on the second time that he was 6.5 seconds down, and now he's gone off the circuit, so exceeding track limits, and with 3.5 minutes to go, yeah, not in an ideal situation. There you're seeing is Daniel Galea, the first Haas driver involved in the championship. We didn't get any Haas's arriving at Zandvoort 7 days ago, and now we're seeing Daniel Galea take to the track for the Canapolis-based team, weaving away to try and warm up those tyres. And with 3 minutes to go, I'm starting to see that there is going to be a huge amount of drivers now trying to put themselves into a position where they can go and set a lap here. Matthew Kassar is slowing up here, so I don't think he's going to get a lap time. I might just... so he might just be trying to set up another lap here. This is Efrom Tabon towards turn number 2, and this is now going to be those final laps for a couple of drivers. You've seen the top 3 there in the pits. They're going to try and leave at the late moments here, but some drivers out here with a clean track are going to be making a lap time happen. Over a 10.5 up in the first sector, and the Racing Bulls is just on the limits as much as you possibly can, trying to get everything you can out of that all-white Racing Bulls cars. A brilliant addition, I think, that the team in real life has gone for. But, yep, unfortunately, wrong with the quartering angle on that one.
Yeah, that one's entirely driver-ridden, by the way. Apologies for the coughing on that one. I think I got caught a little bit off guard by my own throat deciding to give up on me there. So good recovery on that one. Thanks, Adam. Here we go then. And following is smooth operator. That's his Isaac Barbara, looking to try and set a bit of a closer lap maybe to his teammate, the world champion of Alexander Galea. Quick call on Daniel Galea, by the way. He is the first reserve driver to take part in this championship as well. So it's always a pleasure to see reserve drivers take up some spots. So nice to see the Haas driver out there as well. Here comes his smooth operator himself, only a 17.3 for Isaac Barbara. So that will not see him get anywhere near the top 10. Holdzef will get going with his lap as Daniel Barbara sets 1:20.0. Still plenty of lap time to find for him. Here's David Misford looking to try and set the left-hander then through the right-hander of turn number 11-12. You want to try and keep it as planted as you can. He has found 77 thousandths of a second in the second sector, looking semi-decent to be fair, and he's lucky to keep that lap actually going through the turn 12 complex. Keeps it on the white line, but the car not looking comfortable on the curbs. Here he comes then through turn number 14. He'll get a slight tow maybe from the car in front of him, which will help him out. Here he comes then across the start finishing line right now. It's a 15.505, and again for Misford. Manages to find time, but not find position. Stays in P4. Keep an eye out now on Daniel Chinny.
Yeah, that top six is looking really, really good, but Chinny looks to be soaring away at the wheel. He's fighting his car rather than working with it, and that is not a sign you want to see. The Ferrari is all over the road. It seems like he's trying to keep it right on that white line, but again, understeer in towards that right-hander, and unfortunately for Chinny, that's going to be probably the lap goal. We'll go through the split time here, and it's 1.3 seconds down. So unfortunate there for Daniel Chinny, a podium sitter back in season 6. Meanwhile, Matthew Cassar, last time's winner, can he go faster? He goes provisional pole position by 12 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, and Andrea Borg is still halfway through his lap. Checkered flag is now out in this qualifying session from Cassar, now leading the way from pole position. Lesieux is not going to be improving on this lap. He's half a second down. Andrea Borg is improving. He's up 9 thousandths of a second in the first sector, so he's matching his first sector, which was pretty sharp. If he can get a decent second sector, he might be within touching distance. That's a great final corner. It's a 26.8. It's not too bad. 22 thousandths down. He is going to be putting pressure on Matthew Cassar. It's exactly 12 thousandths of a second he needs to find if he wants to improve on his lap time and improve on his position. Here he comes through the final corner of turn number 14. The man, the myth, the legend that is Andrea Borg, unlucky not to get pole position or the lead, but he will get pole position on this occasion with a 1:15.322. He gets his reprieve from what happened at Zandvoort Reverse last week, and he'll be happy to hear that the Alpine Renault is on pole.
Yeah, a superb moment there for Andrea Borg, and that Alpine will be starting in front here at the very front of the grid. I was just having a look and seeing if Isaac Barbara can go any faster. No, he can't. He'll be 13th on the grid, but that top 6 was just immensely close. You could not pick them apart, but it was Andrea Borg in front at the end of all of this, and that grid just looks absolutely spicy as you like. Cassar will line up alongside him, Alexander Galea alongside Daniel Chinny, David Mifsud will be alongside Jake Meljak, and we'll be really looking forward to seeing how they're going to do. I think Williams will be one to really keep an eye out for as well. Look at the two Kick Saubers there in 8th and 10th, so a lot to keep an eye out for. I think there's some teams out there that'll be looking to score big points as well.
Yeah, should be, no doubt, an absolute cracker of a race in just a few short moments. Let's take a look, though, at the qualifying results then. So Andrea Borg, the man finishing second place last time out, is on pole by 28 thousandths of a second to Matthew Cassar. Then you've got the current world champion Alexander Galea in P3. You've got Daniel Chinny in P4, and then David Misford in P5. Then you've got Jake Meljak in P6, and then, of course, the other Williams in P7, Simon Neschev is in P8. Ilanis from Gaming with Neil, then Weeder, Chris Kirk is Smooth Operator, Ronskins, Rocket, Holzjeff, then Korshecki, and then our reserve driver for tonight's race in Daniel Galea. So that should be an absolute cracker. We'll be back in just a few short moments for what will be no doubt an intense Hungarian Grand Prix. Don't go away. For this race, so no more waiting, let's go racing. Andrea Borg leading the way then from Lesiu, who's looking to try and defend around the outside line, but no moves there. And I think a few people may have also been caught off guard with this one. It's not just us. Looks like a few people been caught off guard by people readying up and wanting to get straight on with it here, Adam. Andrea Borg leading the way. Matthew Kassar got caught out immediately and then is immediately beaten off the line by Alexander Galea, sorry. Matthew Kassar then from David Misford, and then you've got Jake Malak in P5 up one position. Simon Neschev also up two. The Saubers got away with it straight away, and as well the reserve driver of Daniel Galea, he's already up three.
Indeed he is. Clean start from everyone there, but super start from a lot of our drivers. They just try and weave their way. Now they have to find that rhythm to get into. There are the possible strategies. Mediums into hard, but you could also do vice versa. Or do you go for the two-stopper? That could be an interesting one. Very similar talks into real life as well. That the two-stopper could be the way to go. Matthew Kassar really hounding Alexander Galea in this one. He wants his second place back, but he's also got to be wary here that Misford is on the back of him. And I think Meliak is also going to be trying to push on through here. So really unlucky there. Daniel Chinny down there in 9th. What can he do to try and come back from this disaster of a start?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So obviously everyone caught a little bit off guard perhaps by the immediate start here to this race as well. We've obviously got caught off guard at the media team as well, so people wanted to just get on with this race here as well. We're currently on board with the Williams of Michael Misford McMullen. He's looking to try and set some early precedent on Simon Neshdev, but no positions lost. Here are the tyres, if we don't mind, please, Mr. Director, because the tyres are going to be fairly critical in this one. We know that this is going to be medium hard or a hard medium race. It's quite a high deck circuit, this one. The majority of the drivers looking like they've gone for a set of mediums, but there are a few people with a set of hards, as it looks like we've already lost someone through a spinning, and Daniel Galea, he's now down at the back by a considerable margin on those medium tyres, but leading the way still Andrea Borg, but under pressure from Alexander Galea.
He is, and that is going to be a big moment there. Speaking of big moments there, Kassar rear end sliding away, but also you've got Galea fighting with the car through this final sector. This is where you kind of see it, the dirty air that's been so heavily talked about in F125 really showing off there. They head their way on towards turn number 1, and already an attack there from Alexander Galea, and I wonder if that's going to be a potential switchback here from Galea, trying to power his way on through. Is he going to look to the inside for turn number 2? Up the inside, but he doesn't look at it this time around, just tries to off-put the Alpine of Andrea Borg. Borg being wise, move in that one, and he'll retain the lead for now. But I expect him to go into the lead here, Galea, because of that medium tyre advantage.
Yes, that's a critical thing here for Andrea Borges. If he can try and hold back Galea from any kind of overtake, then those medium tyres are going to fall off a cliff fairly quickly, because of course the dirty air will shred those tyres to bits. So it's pretty important that Galea gets the moves done. He's already got one done from the good start, as we've already got a person with 3-second penalty for track extension issues in Kirsten Kumi in the Mercedes. We've also lost another person spinning out. It looks like Jake Melak has gone for a spin, and he's also out of the race. That could potentially bring up a little bit of a mixed bag. It's a full course yellow, but it is not a safety car. We have a virtual safety car now out on circuit, so the drivers will reduce their speed to 40% of their usual race pace, as they will now navigate their way around the circuit with no overtaking. I wouldn't anticipate anyone making any early pit stops at this part of the race, but it's brought out the virtual safety car. We've already had 2 spin outs, and one of them's resulted in a DNF.
Yep, I expect maybe one person to try and pit maybe for a set of soft tyres, try and force their way through the field, and then maybe put on a set of hard tyres all the way to the end. But it looks like nobody has done that. Kirsten Kurmi has a penalty down there in 11, so I believe track limits already for the Mercedes driver. Indeed, 3-second time penalty for the Mercedes driver, who with Matthew Cassar currently leads the constructors championship by 5 points over Williams, but it does look like that it might be going down to over to Oxford or to Enstone if things stay the way they are. But be aware, everyone, because we could be going virtual safety car to green anytime soon.
Yeah, it should be imminent, we suspect, as we go green again here at the Hungaroring, and a person has been caught out. It looks like it's the Ferrari of Samuel Borges. He's gone a little bit too early under the drive-through penalties. Delta was too low, and he now has a drive-through penalty to serve within the next 3 laps of this race. So that Ferrari will now go all the way to the back of the grid when he, of course, serves that drive-through before the end of lap number 7. So your order as it stands then: Andrea Borges leading the way, as Holds have another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. They're already coming thick and fast. It's only lap 4 of 35, folks. Andrea Borges leading the way from Alexander Galea. Then you've got Matthew Cassard, David Misford, and then Simeon Neshev doing a decent job in P5 for the Kick Salvers. And then the other Williams of Michael Misford McMullen in P4 and P6 is turning out to be actually a semi-decent race at the moment for the Williams outfit.
It is indeed. I think that's going to be so promising for that team as they head their way on towards turn number 2. But I think that this race is just going to be about patience. Well, that is a patient there from these two drivers. Look at the Alpine there at the inside. That's a big old lunge there, but the Ferrari of Samuel Borges will come back and make that move, stick on that one. So it doesn't seem to be any patience here at the bottom of the grid. They're all going hammer and tongue in their little tussle that they've got going out on the racetrack. But I think more towards the top end of the field, where things are going to be a little bit more intense. You know, you've got Borges, and then Galea, and Cassar, then Mifsud, and then I believe Neshev as well, who are all, sorry, the top 4. Just the top 4 are going to be in very close proximity, because there's going to be a little bit more refinement on them. They've got to really be on to their game and really just be looking out for whatever they're doing. I believe that this is all about patience for a lot of these drivers.
Still waiting on a message back from our director about what actually happened at the race start, but either way, it's putting no pressure at all, no issues at all for Alexander Galea, who's going to go for the late breaker going into number 1, and that is a lot cleaner than the last occasion there, as Andrea Borges is now relegated to P2. We were expecting this overtake inevitably at some point. The medium tyre has naturally got a little bit more grip versus Andrea Borges' hard compound of tyre on that Alpine Renault. But on that occasion, Lesiu himself, the champion, now leading this race from Andrea Borges, from Matthew Cassar. Then you've got David Misson, and again Simeon Neshev leading in the top 5. As we've just got full confirmation, by the way, that someone, just readied up a bit too early than they should have done. And that's why we were all caught a little bit off guard. So there could be some repercussions for that individual readying up a bit too early, because it's definitely caught a few people off guard here, Adam.
It did indeed. And very unfortunate for some, especially for the driver that kind of caused that. Of course, we won't push names
at all. I think it's just out of respect as well. But also, we don't know who it is. So more focus on the race because we're about to turn onto lap 70. See there, Kassar again fighting with the car. I'm sure that a lot of our drivers are going to be complaining about there's too much dirty air, but of course Galea's not going to be complaining because he's at the front of the field, but Andrea Borg might be going for a move here. DRS open, allowing all of the energy recovery system to work away. He's going to try the outside lane here on the McLaren driver. He swoops his way around the outside. He'll have the DRS will have to swap back inside here and on towards the outside of turn number 2, trying to pinch that car to the inside line, and Andrea Borg will just be hanging on for dear life, but he just won't get ahead here at the McLaren side by side in towards 4, hitting it very tight, and a superb move from Andrea Borg. It was bold, it was brave, and a superb move from the Alpine puts him back into the lead.
Yeah, he was never aiming for the overtake at 1 or 3, 1 or 2. He was looking for it at 3. It's a cracking move indeed from Andrea Borg, who now retakes the lead of this race again on a hard tyre, which is only going to benefit himself versus Alexander Galea as well. Sector 1 yellow flags wave, by the way. That's for Koshecki, who's gone for his second spin of this race as well. He's really struggling out there in the Aston Martin. He's missing an M-plate and flaps as well on the left-hand side of that front wing, back towards the front. And then you've got this battle with David Misford, who's now getting a little bit closer here to Matthew Kassar on that hard tyre. We've got another spinner. Holdzef has also gone for a spin as well. That's the Eb from Tabone as well, the guy who managed to get into the top 10 as well last time out. So a bit of disappointing stuff for the RB, or Racing Bull, whatever they're called this week. Matthew Kassar, though, getting as close as he can to Alexander Galea, but DRS Trains just keeping the front 4 in a bit of a stable position at the moment.
Yeah, especially with the fact of it's very difficult to overtake. Meanwhile, Simeon Neshev, it's a bit of an interesting one. That is Daniel Galea getting a penalty, if anyone is wondering who's getting awarded on that one. But back to Simon Nechev, he's doing a good job here holding up the rest of the field, albeit it's not really a place you want to be. He's just about 2 seconds behind the top 4 here, who would love to join in that battle. But remember, Sauber came away from the last result with a singular car in 14, that being, of course, Nechev. So they're currently running P9 in the team's championship. And if they can get anything out of this, any form of points, then that would be an absolutely fantastic one for those guys. Meanwhile, Adam Qureshi has gone into the pits. He is DNF from this one, but Matthew Kassar is now starting to launch an attack here on Andrea Borg. My apologies, on Alexander Galea, as Borg has just jumped off down the road. He's already 2 seconds clear.
He wants to get the inroads done here. Maybe the medium tyres already starting to fall off. Here comes Kassar down the outside of turn number 1, looking like he wants to put a bit of pressure on the customer team. Around the outside they will go as the the McLaren really struggling to get on throttle. We can see the wiggle of that corner here. Now Matthew Kassar happy not to go side by side with the McLaren on this occasion, but taking the earlier apex, and if anything, he's lost a lot of time to the McLaren, and that's probably because he's trying to give the McLaren a little bit of wiggle room, because he knows he's got the faster compound, he knows he's got the better tyre at the moment, as well as we've got another spin out again. It's Samuel Butler struggling down at the back, but here comes Alexander Galea now looking under a little bit of pressure, and then there's a teammate of Samuel Borg himself, Daniel Shinny, trying to put pressure on the other Williams of Michael Misford McMullen. Now the pressure here for Williams is actually they're not on the inverse strategy. They're both matching strategies on the medium tyre here, so that could pose a bit of a problem for the Williams outfit, because the undercut could be quite powerful around here with the high deg.
Yeah, but of course, you're 1.2, you're 1.7, 1.8 seconds between each other, so you're looking at roughly 2 seconds, which wouldn't be enough. Of course, McMullen would be, in fact, put at a bad potential here and would be pretty much put behind Mifsud if they both put it on the same time. There was a spinner there, it looks like, as Matthew Kassar goes down the inside there of Alexander Galea, but gets a little twitch on the exit there and invites the McLaren, trying to go back through here on that inside line for Kassar. So he's going to try and go later on the break. There's a contact between the two, and it looks like Kassar are going to have to give up the ghost on that one. Galea keeps P2, and a solid battle between them, and that's going to invite now Simeon Nechev into the battle. So a gap of 1-2 seconds. now finds himself at half a second. Immense stuff.
And this is going to be fairly critical for Matthew Cassar because his battle is not with the medium tyre runners, it's with Andrea Borg in the lead of this race. So Matthew Cassar really could have done with having this move done on Alexander Galea a little bit earlier on. We've got more time penalties coming in thick and fast. We've lost another driver in the RB of Epron Tabone. He's decided to retire from this race as well as one of two drivers who have retired in the pit lane alongside Koreshi. Both of them really struggling in this race. And here's Michael Misford McMullen getting close now to Dave Potts in this little battle as he gets past the Ferrari of Daniel Shinnie. So Williams now 4 and 5, but on the wrong tyres at the moment in respect of this part of the race. Matthew Cassar getting closer and closer and a lot closer on this occasion, gets the move done on Alexander Galea, who tries to go around the outside, but surely the grip is just not going to be there for the McLaren as they go side by side. There's the retiring RB, nothing to worry about on that front as they head through to the next corner, and the Mercedes is now in front, but a 4-second gap to Andrea Borg. That is the damage that has happened to the hard tyre runner, but he's stuck behind a medium.
It is indeed, and that's going to be a little bit painstaking for him. So we'll have to see how this all kind of works out at this moment in time, as the fronts kind of the front four in this battle, I think, are really looking at a really tight stuff here, because look at that, the two Williams are still really in close contention, and I really can see them in a horrible situation in terms of pitting, as you said. That has come to now a position where they're both on kind of similar asphalt as well. So Daniel Chinny trying to attack them, and I think that they do need a little bit of separating down at Wantage. So Daniel Chinny would be kind of a great addition, but in comes Simeon Nechev trying a bit of an undercut here. We'll see what the Sauber can do, but 10-second time penalty, speeding in the pit lane, and that kind of ruins his race already.
Can't get away with that one as they go side by side as Daniel Shinnie's tried to go for the dive on Daniel Misford McMullen, and in that occasion no move going to be done on that one as well. Michael Misford McMullen, apologies, for the Williams outfit, looking to try and defend here from the move against the Ferrari. Now both of the Williams drivers still holding station here. If I were Williams here and I were considering their strategy, David Misford has surely got to be sort of pit stop -2 to give a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room for Misford McMullen, who will pit one lap earlier than he needs to with pit stop -1, so he could try and commit to the undercut, of course, of those on the hard tyres, including, never forget as well, the McLaren of Alexander Galea might be the champion, but as it stands so far, the pace is certainly there for Misford and for McMullen to potentially get a little bit closer and potentially put a little bit of pressure on the defending champion in that McLaren, who's now just coming around turn number 13. Are we going to see any pit stops on this occasion? Is anyone going to react to the overtakes, to the pit stops of those in front? Looks like to me everyone is just happy to hold station.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. It just seems like a very, very slow game of chess at the minute. A lot of drivers not really wanting to make moves at the minute. But then again, you got Daniel Chinny going down the inside there of Michael McMullen, but not being able to get the traction to the Williams. Are going to try and fight that and be on the outside line for the next left-hander. I think that the Ferrari is just going to stay ahead in this one. Chinny will just stay ahead on this one, and I think that's a Ferrari trying to fight back. It's a little bit of tyre saving in these early stages. Now we're trying to push on forward here because you can see the gaps are now starting to extend, and Galea might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yes, he could certainly be in a little bit of trouble now. So if I was, though, the Williams now of Michael Misford McMullen, I'd be considering now a conversation with my teammate to say, look, I'm going to commit to this slightly earlier pit stop than you here. I know that might be not in your favour, but I've got to try and get the jump now on Daniel Shinnie, who is now over a second in front of the Williams driver. Here is now Alexander Galea on his ageing medium tyres, not looking too bad. The right looking like an opening blister maybe on the outside edge. Oh, the rear just not happy though on that McLaren, and David Misford getting closer and closer. But look at Daniel Shinny, he's getting very close indeed here. Is that Ferrari? Is it going to commit to the overtake going through into turn number 1? He's certainly looking for it. The gap is a bit half-hearted on this occasion, but the gap's still there, though, to be fair. Does the Williams have the traction out of the corner going through to turn number 2? He's also getting a tow from the McLaren. Down the inside, then, the Williams will go to try and defend from the Ferrari. On this occasion, the Ferrari is still there, and around the outside, that David Misford will go. That's a fabulous bit of defending from the Williams.
It is a really good stuff there from Misford. He tries to hold back the Ferrari.
I definitely think that, you know, Chinny is in a position where he's got to push. He's got that kind of awareness about him to go on and try and fight for this. But I do wonder how those hard tyres will go, because they've got a long stint ahead of them. You know, it's going to be over 20 laps, because, you know, medium tyres seemingly just cannot do more than 10 laps without, you know, falling off a complete cliff. So it will be such a struggle for a lot of these guys. I do wonder what those hard tyres will be like after 20 laps, and, you know, who will be able to hold on the best. But wow, that's a big one from Chinny as he tries to fight past the Williams, but he'll grab the DRS as well as the Misfit. But up the inside, the big gap there emerging on that right-hand side, and already trying to make the move. The Ferrari is later on the brakes, a little bit of lock-up on the front right. He'll defend that position like a brick wall, and he'll find himself up into P4. Another one ticked off the list. Galea next.
Very surprised that the Williams have decided to continue on with their medium strategy here, obviously trying to have the better tyres maybe versus everyone else, as we just keep a very firm eye on the McLaren of Lesu here. This is Alexander Galea looking to do the best that he can here to defend from the Ferrari of Daniel Shinny, who is looking particularly sharp now on these hard tyres. Got a brief yellow flag there, I think, for half-spinning Ronskins. He'll stay in P12.
Have a look down the field there. You got Andrea Borschel leading 5.5 seconds. Sa in second. Then you got Alexander Galea, who's going to be feeling a lot of pressure there from Daniel Chinny. And then you got the two Williams ahead of Emerson Saab, and then you've got the brand new driver Neil Kassar in P8 there. And then it's going to be Christian Kurmi and Simeon Nechev rounding out the top 10. And then you've got the 4 drivers there in the bottom 4 who are not going to be scoring any points. And Alexander Galea has taken the opportunity to pit now, just slides his way into the pit lane here, rear locking away, and now it's down to the 2 Williams. But look at that, Emerson Saab has appeared on the scene. I believe he's also running the hard compound tyre as well, so that is going to be something to really keep an eye out for, as that pit stop there from Alexander Galea is now done and dusted. On to the next parts of this story we're unfolding in front of you.
I think it's a wasted opportunity here from the Williams outfit. I think if they decided to pit 1 lap earlier, maybe pit Misford or even McMullen just 1 lap earlier, that could have forced the hand of the McLaren. But instead they've decided to give that one basically a freebie to Alexander Galea, because now, of course, those hard tyres are going to be so much better than the seriously aged medium tyres now, which are 15 laps old. Here we are following the racing bull of Emerson Saab, who is looking to try and keep that pressure on the Williams of Michael Misford McMullen, but you can see him locking up through the second sector. It's only inevitable at some point that Milanist himself is going to make the inroads and make the progress against the Williams, unless they elect to make the jump now. Is any of them pitting? Yes, one of them finally pitting, David Misford, but in my opinion that's at least 1, maybe 2 laps too late.
Yeah, I think that Williams might come to maybe regret that in a later stage, or it could come to fruition. Of course, they've got more time on those hard tyres to push all through this race on this one, and you see that Emerson Saab is desperate to take a place here with those hard compound tyres. They just seem to have really worked in the early stage, whilst the medium have just kind of worked in the first 5 laps and then just kind of fallen off as time went on slowly. And by the time you're getting to lap 15, you've barely got any rubber left to try and play with. Emerson Saab really trying to see if he can work something out, but of course he's wiggly Hungary circuit is not one to try and attack all angles. You're looking to just find that little bit of a gap, little bit of asphalt to try and pass him through here. But even he is now starting to struggle with the dirty air in front of him, and those hard tyres surely can't keep all the way to lap 20.
Hopefully we could go back to P9 if we don't mind here, because we want to go back down to Andrea. Sorry, that's David Misford alongside Lesiu himself, Alexander Galea. He's looking to try and get this move done as quickly as he possibly can. Oh, wow, on the Mercedes of Kirsten Kumi, and he wants to get it done as quickly as possibly can because he knows the undercut is an incredibly powerful bit here. Now, and how we know it's incredibly powerful is the fact that he was only, about a second, do we want to say, to David Misford? The gap when he came out of the pits was 4. He's lost a second behind behind the Mercedes of Kirsten Kumi. He gets the move done before he gets to turn 1, but there's the Williams there. That is a significant gap of about 3 seconds, just purely on the fact that he pitted that 1 lap earlier. Meanwhile, Michael Misford McMullen is 5 seconds back from David Misford, who is 2.5 behind, in fact 3.5 behind now. Alexander Galea, as told you, this is a wasted opportunity from Williams because those hard tyres, 1 or 2 laps difference around this circuit at this part in the race is not going to make the difference.
No, it's not. It will be a tough one for Williams, and of course these guys are the reigning Constructors' Championship champions, so they'll be hoping to really work something out. Of course, they had Brandon Bonello last season doing a lot of the push work, but of course Brandon, we haven't seen him on the grid in all honesty, so I do hope to see Bonello back. But yeah, keeping on tabs here with the 2 Saubers. Of course, no points in that opening race with the sole of Simeon Nechev, but if they can work something out here, which they are looking to do so, this would be an amazing result, as Mifsud will get past now Kirsten Kurmi, who now comes into pit lane onto lap 19. So this race is really starting to wind down now, and on towards about 16 or 17 laps to go. Still plenty of time left on the table for these drivers to really change the game.
Yeah, Kick Sauber have managed to commit to this undercut here by going as early as they have done, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, those hard tyres are going to be screaming at the end of this race as well, because of course they will be, what's that for Neil Kassar? He'll be approaching 15 plus the 9 plus the 1, so that's 15, 10, 25 lap old hard tyres, which let's be perfectly candid with you, at this point in the race, the hard tyres for these runners in the front 4 are almost certainly going to be feeling the pressure here. So it will be rough, I think, here for the Kick Saubers, but the undercut may be quite considerably powerful. We'll see how they do. Oh, Kassar's gone for a spin. Matthew Kassar has gone for a spin at turn number 3, and that will smile here for Samuel Borges, for Daniel Shinny, who now comes around here to potentially take the lead of this race here, because Matthew Kassar making that spin, he immediately dives into the pit lane. There you got Daniel Shinny, who now leads the race from Andrea Borges on the medium tyre. Where are the Kick Saubers in this one? The Kick Saubers do get the undercut here on the 2 medium tyre runners, and they're trying their hardest here to now get past the Racing Bull of the final Racing Bull of Emerson Zarb. The gap between them and Andrea Borges is around about 1.5 seconds. That should fall down pretty rapidly, but the Kick Saubers can work with each other on this now, but those tyres are not going to be very happy by the end of this race. What is it, about 25 laps? I think it will be. Side by 4. That's one way you can do it, I suppose. They want to get that one done quickly. Not through there, though, usually, but anyway, options choice to try and get this one done. Here comes Neil Kassar as well. Is he trying to get it done here? Oh, he's caught of the RB a little bit napping there as well, but he manages to complete the corner. Here is the Alpine of Andrea Borges on that medium tyre. So much more grip in comparison to the 3 cars in front of him. How quickly can he get these moves done, if at all, at the moment? Because the Kick Saubers now will be uber attacking and uber defensive. Look at that, straight away! Crikey, that was close. Very, very close indeed from the hard tyre runner, of course, who has to pit. He has to brake a little bit earlier than the medium tyre runner of Andrea Borges. Here comes Daniel Shinny now entering into the pit lane. Semyon Neshchev leading the way. Neil does manage to get the move done on Milanis, because of course he now commits to the pit stop. Where is Andrea Borges? Just tucked in behind here. Neil Kassar chucking the car through the right-hander. We'll see, will he be able to get it here as he goes side by side, going through into turn number 1. The grip is usually on the inside, but the actual traction is going to be available for the Alpine Renault, and he does get the move done around the outside of turn 1. Absolutely cracking move from the man finishing P2 last time out. He's now chasing down Simeon Neschev.
Oh, that's a superb move there from himself, and Andrea Borch will be really a man on a mission now. Just keep an eye on that 1.3 second gap, because that's going to become nothing in the click of a finger, in the blink of an eye, I promise you, because it's already now less than a second, my word. And we now see Alexander Galea on those fresh hard compound tyres. He's also trying to make something up. If you're wondering about Daniel Chinny on those new medium compound tyres, he's into 8, he's into clear air, and he's now approaching McMullen in the Williams. And also just ahead of him is a Kassar. So he's going to be there's 2 targets right in front of him. That's going to be a really, really tough mission, I think, for Chinny, especially with the start that he had. He fell from, I believe it was about 5th place all the way down to 9th.
Wow.
And now Andrea Borg is going to grab the lead already in these early stages. So he's come out the pit 2 laps later. He leads the race, and here comes Alexander Galea to try and make a move here on Neil Kassar, and instantly up into 3rd place. The Salvers are starting to fade away on those hard compound tyres. So yes, well done with the undercut, but you've now put yourself in a position where you're vulnerable to the medium tyre runners behind. So they have to really kill the tyres, and maybe the hard tyres will come back into their own. It's such a really interesting momentum when you really think about the long game in this situation here, James.
Got to commit to the long game in this particular circuit as well, and unfortunately the Simeon Neschev with Neil Kassar, I'm expecting they will start to fall down the order pretty rapidly over the next 13 or so laps left in this race. Lap 22 of 35. Bit of a lock-up from Michael Misford McMullen up in P7 as he looks to try and chase down Matthew Kassar on a set of hard tyres. With that time penalty, though, the medium tyre runner of Daniel Chinny is only going to have all the confidence in the world to just hang back, let McMullen make all of these mistakes, and then take the position and pounce when he needs to. He's not even using any of his ERS either. He's just able to manage his entire race pace purely on the mechanical grip of these fresh medium tyres as he comes through turn number 13, heading through into turn number 14. Will the Ferrari look for it here? No, not on this occasion. He's learnt his lesson from last time out here, as it looks like here we've got Alexander Galea getting the move done on Simeon Neschev. Here is Daniel Chinny getting closer and closer and closer. Down the inside he will go, going through into turn number 1, and the Ferrari makes easy pickings of Michael Misford McMullen. A little bit wide out the corner. The grip should be there, though, for the medium tyre runner as he gets this move done, going through into the next corner. Here's Simeon Neschev of being overtaken by Alexander Galea. He's now down to P3. Oh, off of the circuit wide. That'll take a warning for that one. Both of the Kicksaubers now with a time penalty.
Yep, that's not going to be. That's not going to help them in any means certain there, and they're huge penalties as well. 10 and 16 seconds for Sauber. They're really looking to keep points here, but you know, I question how possible that's going to be, especially with some of the biggest penalties on the grid. You know, Neil Kassar with the biggest, Simeon Neschev with the third biggest penalty he's got to his name. So a lot of these ones are really going to be hounding and really hanging over these drivers' heads. They've probably lost a little bit of focus as well, because that is not something you want to be seeing on the side of the screen. You'll probably look over and you see that and think, I cannot be asked with that penalty. I'm just going to go flat out and just believe that, you know, I can still win this race, which, you know, you can have that mentality, but we'll see how it goes as David Mish will swing that around the outside there of Neil Kassar. They'll challenge their way all the way down on towards turn number 2 with that inside line. Fresh tyres. Dave Potsy up into 4th place, and he's hoping for a pot and a point.
Oh, Simeon Neshchev with 13 seconds worth of penalties now. Neil Kassar with 16 seconds as well. It's going from bad to worse for Kik Sauber. David Misford looking fairly strong now for a potential podium. He whiffs it, he can smell it. It's right there for him. He just needs to hold on and hope that the Kik Saubers put a little bit of pressure on the medium tyre runners behind of Matthew Kassar and Daniel Shinnie in 6th and 7th place. Here's the Aston Martin of Chris Kick. He's battling at the moment with the other McLaren, of Isaac Barbara, and he's currently battling with the Mercedes of with Kirsten Koumi at the moment as well. For this is all for a battle for P10 at the moment. Now, both on hard tyres are the guys in front. Meanwhile, this man is on a medium tyre, but they're now 5 laps old. So the ageing effect of these medium tyres are starting to come into effect now, and that's going to be fairly critical here for Kirsten Koumi, because he's got to be aware these tyres will fall off a cliff. Simeon Neshchev enters in the pit lane, and for some reason Neil Kassar has also done exactly the same thing. They're double stacking here at Kik Sauber, and they're both going to serve a 10-second time penalty. Very peculiar strategy. I don't know where that's from, but Adam, perhaps you could tell me what they're cooking.
They tried to cook up a roast dinner and they've completely burnt it, I think, in all honesty. I think you can only serve 5-second penalties unless I've been told, unless something's different happened in this game. Here you can see both Saubers having to take penalties, and this will drop them right down the field. So I do wonder what tyres they will be taking, and yeah, it does look like this one might be a 10-second time penalty being served. So they've gone for the medium compound tyre. I think that's the best tyre to go with, and we'll have to see if they can really push that as far as they can with 10 laps to go. It should survive and put them a little bit higher up.
Peculiar, that one. Both of the Kik Saubers have served their 10-second time penalties, but Neil Kassar has effectively served a 20-second penalty, because of course he was caught up behind Simeon Neshchev serving his 10-second penalty. So very peculiar there from the Bruise Lime Lean Green machines committing to the double stack with 10-second time penalties. Figure that one out. Anyway, here is Daniel Shinnie, the man finishing second place last time out in this championship. He now wants to potentially lead the way, but as it stands so far, he's currently being beaten by the Mercedes of Matthew Kassar. Both of these drivers on the medium tyre. Of course, Daniel Shinnie has got 1 lap fresher, which could prove to be a bit of a challenge later down the line. His teammate, though, Samuel Borge, really struggling out there at the moment as well. That's his 3rd spin, I believe, of this event. He's down at the back of the field at the foot in P14. But currently, as it stands so far, 4.8-second gap between Andrea Borge and Alexander Galea, looking fairly strong here for the Alpine Renault for the race win here. Gap of around about 4.5 seconds between 2nd and 3rd place. David Misford managing to get past after all everyone's made their pit stops. So the Williams Mercedes now into P3. I honestly think if he pitted a couple of laps earlier, he could have been on for P2, but there's certainly a podium position here up for grabs now for that Williams, as it looks like we've got another person pitting. It's the other McLaren of Isaac Barbara.
Yeah, it does seem like Barbara there just making another stop. It seems like the cheese stop could be the way to go. I did put that out there during the early stages on the first lap, I believe. So I do wonder if maybe some drivers will go with it. You know, it worked in real life with Lando Northy. Well, it didn't actually, because they Lando with the one stop actually kind of came into my head. But especially with the way the F1 game works. Actually, let me get back to that, because Daniel Chinny's up the inside of Matthew Kassar to try and take P4 on this one. They're side by side, and it looks like Kassar was having absolutely none of it. Daniel Chinny has gone into save mode on his energy recovery system, and he's letting Kassar just romp down the road. Now he's trying to regain a little bit of battery, but yeah, as I was saying, the tyres, because it's a 50% race, of course the tyres will wear a little bit more quickly compared to what they do in a 100% race. So if you see maybe a tyre that goes 20 laps, think about that being about 40 laps old in an entire Grand Prix distance. So that's kind of how it works, but it still kind of rushes the tyre life as well. So it will be interesting to see if drivers decide to think 2-stop is the best way to go at these latter stages.
Yeah, of course. It's not entirely this, but to oversimplify, if it's half the race distance, it's double. the tyre degradation. So that is pretty much what it is. It's not clear cut as that, but if you want to oversimplify, that will be the case. Daniel Shinnie getting closer once again to Matthew Cassar. This is the battle for P4 at the moment. Both of these tyre runners on the mediums, but Daniel Shinnie's got one lap fresher medium tyres. Then as he chucks the car through the left-hander of turn number 3, he'll want to try turn number 2 rather, sorry, through the right-hander of then turn 3, and then of course at the top of the hill of turn 4. The Mercedes looking like he's just harvesting more energy at the moment. Happy to utilise that one. Off of the circuit, Daniel Shinnie will go. He'll take another warning for that one. I believe that will be his last altercation off of the circuit. If he does one more, he certainly will be on his way to a time penalty. 3 seconds, of course, the minimum penalty you can get on the game for committing to going off of the circuit. If you cut corners, it will be significantly more. But Shinnie now looks like he's just getting off of the back, maybe a little bit of Matthew Cassar, giving himself a little bit of breathing room. Perhaps try and cool down the tyres as well. He has been stuck behind that Mercedes for quite a considerable amount of time.
He has done, and we'll have to see how it all kind of works out. And those tyres will not be happy whatsoever. So I just think Shinnie is really starting to struggle here. He's feeling the effects of the dirty air of the tyres just wearing so quickly, because look at that, he's done 8 laps, and we saw earlier that they can barely survive 10, let alone what I believe is going to be about 15 or 16 that he'll end up doing by the time he crosses over the line. So this battle with Matthew Cassar is still on. It's just going to be so difficult. But what I can see is that they are gaining on Daniel Mifsud there in P3 for the Williams team. There going to be a potential battle for that P3 spot. Well, it kind of depends really on those medium tyres. They wear fast enough. It could be the Williams for the taking as easy as it gets every single lap.
I think Dave Misford's actually got one hand now on that third place position, on that third place trophy, because if I'm perfectly honest with you, these tyres, those medium tyres now will start to feel a little bit uneasy. And bear in mind the fact that you've also got Daniel Shinnie who's actually keeping Matthew Cassar on as even at the moment as well. I think Matthew Cassar is more focusing on the car behind than the car in front of him at the moment as well. So that Mercedes and Ferrari are basically battling it out for 4th place here between them. But as it stands so far, a little point of note here, and I don't expect over the next 5 laps there's going to be any kind of critical nature here, but Andrea Borg has lost a couple of tenths here to Alexander Galea, and gap's now only 4.4. Now I say it's only 4.4. There's plenty of time still to be found here for Andrea Borg to just sort of maintain and manage his own race now. But if he keeps losing time hand over fist, he could be inviting Alexander Galea, for any man on a more durable tyre, to potentially put his skates on a little bit.
I definitely think it's still up for grabs here, but you're gonna have to close almost a second a lap here in order to have a shot at Andrea Borg. It kind of depends really on when if the tyres are going to be up to its liking. If the tyres are still going to be there on that Alpine car. So I think Alexander Galea is going to be really pushing, but that gap isn't really closing fast enough, and you're now starting to see Dave Mifsud with that 5-second time penalty. That would drop him all the way down to 5th here. So, big penalties, and they're going to have big consequences at the end of all of this.
Here we go then, lap 31 of 35, gap now about 4.3. It did fall to 3.9 at one point between the front two, so that will be one to watch. These two are still battling though for P4 here. Daniel Shinnie going for the late breaker going into turn 1, and he has actually hit the apex really well. Has Cassar seen that? He has not. He got caught completely napping by the dive bomb here from Daniel Shinnie. What a great move that was from the Ferrari, and I think both of them have been caught off guard by how well that move was crafted. A little bit of a lock-up going through turn 3. Cassar now down to P5 and on tyres that are 1 lap older, so Shinnie maybe a slight opportunity here to get into P3, especially considering Misford now has a 3-second time penalty.
Indeed, we're starting to now see some really good racing, and Shinnie, I think, just saving up that battery with the best thing he could have done. Now he's just got to make sure to stay within 3 seconds here of David Misford here, then he'll be able to stand on top of the podium. But look, the gap there, you're looking at a very, very tough one. You think we kind of had a ghost and put David Misford kind of in the middle of that with his penalty included. He'd be right in the middle of that. He would be probably put a prop right behind that Ferrari. So you're really looking at these slither of tenths between each car, and these are the gaps you're really playing. If we head on to lap 32 here, James, so not long left, what can be achieved in these last couple of moments?
Well, we've just got a little bit of scrapping happening with Neil Cassar at the back of the Mercedes. That's the second Mercedes of Kirsten Koolme. I'm not sure what happened there. Hopefully no damage to the kick Sauber. It certainly would be a bruised lime indeed if there was any kind of damage on that green car. He's looking for it going into turn number 14. What a move this will be as they go side by side. The tyres are hooked as they go side by side and coming out of the corner. They will continue to go side by side. DRS available for Neil Cassar, not for the Mercedes though, as Neil does get that move done. It will be a late breaker. Oh, it's a collision in the end though versus that man in the Mercedes, and Kirsten Koolme was a little bit opportunistic, if we're perfectly honest. He then relegates himself down to P11 as a result of that. Simeon Neshchev now with 9 seconds worth of penalties to his name, but we're back towards this front here as Daniel Shinny is trying to close down here on Dave Potts. But I will be honest with you, David Misford has been gaining time on P4. That 3-second penalty is on the verge of being elapsed here. He might just hold on to the podium as it stands.
And might is the correct word for this one. So those hard tyres, as I said about 10 laps ago, they could come back into their own. You know, those medium compound tyres can barely last 10 laps. Now we're seeing that kind of crossover point where the pace of the hard tyres matches the medium of the chinny. So that 3 seconds has now been elapsed here, but you're right on at the cusp, and any mistake I think from Misford would really be the cork in the bottle, and not in the good way. That will just be stuck in there, and a big unfortunate no trophy for you really. So Shinny will have to really push on here, but the tyres are going, and so at the time.
As well, I've noticed on both of the last few races as well, he overdrives the car a little bit as well. You can see him going into the corner and the steering wheel left and right as he's going through the corners, and that is not the cleanest or by far the quickest way around the circuit. And you can see he's probably overdriving now because he's trying to compensate for the fact he is now out of that 3-second gap, and as it stands, Misford has still got his podium after the penalties. It's a great little bit of just consistent driving, and that shows it's not all about being the fastest, about being most consistent in Formula One, and that is absolutely fabulous from David Misford, who now is in P3 and in prime position to hold on to that position after all the penalties are applied. Here's Neil Cassar. He's trying to get back to the back of Christian Koolme as well. That's Chris Kick in P9. Here he comes then. Sector 2 yellow flags wave for a spinning car. It's looks like it's the Mercedes again of Kirsten Koolme. Christian Koolme trying to hold on here from Neil Cassar, who's looking super quick now on the 8 and 9 lap old medium tyres for the Kick Saubers, who are looking to just consolidate by the looks of things these positions. Remember, Christian Koolme doesn't have a time penalty to his name, so as it stands so far, he'll just hold on to P10, but down the inside, Neil Cassar will go. They will go side by side, but surely with that extra grip of that medium tyre, he'll get this move done. They'll still continue side by side though. Christian Koolme determined. No, he doesn't want to lose his position. Oh, it's a collision side by side through there. It was a late breaker from the Aston Martin. He doesn't need to battle too hard. He knows the car in front has got a time penalty. Just hold on and you'll keep the position. P10 he's down to. P9 it will be on circuit after the penalties are applied as we start the final lap of this race.
We do indeed, and Andrea Borg has just been a superb drive. It's been mega from him. Alexander Galea still there in behind, albeit 3 seconds. Still pushing on forward, looking at that gap for Chinny and David Misford, and now sits at 4 seconds. In case some maybe viewers are out there just thinking, why has Daniel Chinny chosen that kind of driving style? based on F124, everyone uses what's called the flick method. It just basically turn into the corner with all the steering angle, and that is just kind of the way you went around some of the corners. That was kind of the mode in F124. That is why a lot of drivers just became quick. You just turn the steering wheel, flick it in, use all the angle, and you would manage to rotate. So that's why. But it's kind of been worked on for F125, and that's not really the memo anymore. So that's why Chinny is losing so much time just trying to get around the corners. But someone who is getting around these corners absolutely beautifully is Andrea Borg. He came second in Zandvoort. He came for redemption after his pit stop fumble last time out. But the Hungaroring has a king, and it's Andrea Borg in Budapest.
Yeah, great result there from Andrea Borg coming across the line. David Misford, 4.6 seconds back is Daniel Chinny. He'll have to consolidate. The 3 seconds was just a little bit too little for him here, because as here comes the Williams, and what is a great effort from Michael Misford McMullen, and makes it a Williams 3.5. What a great effort it is from Williams, the team. Matthew Cassar finishing in P6. Here comes the RB of Emerson Zarb, the sole RB, of course, after retiring out his teammate. Semyon Neshchev finishing in P8, or crashing across the line in P8. Then you've got Neil Cassar in P9. Now, with the excessive amount of time penalties applied here, will the Aston Martin of Kristen Kermy manage to hold on here? Coming across the line then is Neil Cassar. Look at the amount of time penalties applied. Christian Kermy takes that position, no issues whatsoever, in P9 in the end. You've got the other Alpine there of looks like Aaron Dimesh, as Ronster, as he was known, Ronskins on the PC as well, coming across then the final corner, as he will finish in P11. It's been a race to forget for Kirsten Kume. He'll finish in P12, and then the other McLaren of Isaac Barber rounding out the final runners of this race. We wrap it up here in this race with a win for the Alpine of Andrea Borg.
That's it. Round 2 of the championship done and dusted. We are a quarter of the way through the championship, and the brand new Hungarian Grand Prix podium gets its celebratory podium in the V1 Malta Series. The trophy goes back to Enstone, and it will go into the hands of Andrea Borg. And what a fantastic one it was. It was that slow game of chess that had drivers trying to figure out what was the game plan, and there was a multitude of plans they went with, but of course with the driving style and the tyres and the strategy of Andrea Borg, it was him who came out on top. But looking through the results, it was going to be a good one. So of course, take us through it, James.
Yeah, Andrea Borg then winning this race from Lesu David Potts, then Daniel Shinny, then Misford McMullen from Cassar, Milanis, Simeon Neshchev, Chris Kick, then Neil Ronskin, smooth operator, Vida Rocket, then of course our DNFers of this particular race. You've got Daniel Holzjev Kasheki, and then the final man right at the back who retired very early on in Jake Milak. So that is the end of this particular race. It was, in the end, a race of high attrition. We expected that. Tyres certainly burnt out pretty aggressively as well. The question on my lips, however, is that who is a favourite going into Austria, because we've had 2 completely different circuits, 2 completely different race winners. We have had a selection of races in and around the top of the field, but Austria brings its own individual challenges, plenty of opportunities for overtaking in a couple of weeks' time. So the question that I've got for you here, as Adam, is looking at this one. Is there any firm favourite for this one?
I definitely just having a look at some of my stats spreadsheets over here. You know, it's been quite a key circuit around here. The last 2 seasons, Daniel Chinny has taken 2 podiums, 2 podiums and 1 win, to make it more exact as well. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. You know, that's going to be a big opportunity for that Ferrari driver to put himself in a good position. But for me, it gives Galea vibes. It really does give me an Alexander Galea win vibe. I don't know what about it. It just feels like we're going to get a third different winner in 3 different races, and then we'd really be able to see what these drivers are made of, and it will really start to come into a big moment of we've got a serious amount of contenders in this championship. battle. It's just about who can manage it throughout an eight race season and come out on top, because you're gonna have to take kind of priorities and sacrifices as well all throughout this season. So a lot of our drivers are really gonna have to think about what they're doing every single time they get in their sim rigs and race in this championship.
If you don't mind, I'd like to take another quick look at the calendar actually before we wrap this one up, because it's not just Austria that we need to keep an eye out on, because we do take a trip to Monza in 3 weeks' time as well, of course, for the Italian Grand Prix. Then Saudi Arabia. So again, 2 very low downforce circuits, but both with their own intricate problems. Then you've got Bahrain, another circuit completely different in terms of its sort of pedigree. Mexico similarly, and then Abu Dhabi, you perhaps could be pretty close to Bahrain in its structure, but again, its own individual racing abilities of racing spots. So it's a calendar that offers multiple different challenges, and I think that's the main point of this one here, is effectively who is going to be the driver that's going to adapt the best. And we'll find that one out certainly after we've started to see some trends maybe in just 2 weeks' time when we do take a trip to Austria. But that is it for the V1 Malta series for the next couple of weeks. We should be over in Austria on the 20th of October, and we're going to wrap this one up with the very quick thoughts of yourself, Adam. At the end of the day, we're in for what is no doubt a high attrition race, a few learnings to take, a week break before we end up going over to Austria. What are the drivers going to learn before they head over into Austria?
I think they've got to all keep relaxed. Yes, you do have 6 rounds remaining, but I think it's all going to come down to the end. As long as you're all suited out for the end, you got yourself in a good position. You got a good amount of points, and you know that you have a chance at the title. That's all you're going to be kind of working out here. Don't put more pressure on yourself than you should. Spend the next 5 rounds really putting in the results, really working away, and then making that 6th round count when we go to the end. I believe, Abu Dhabi. That race is going to be one of high attrition. We're going to be seeing more closer action, I think, than we've had throughout the entire season. So, no matter what we do see, it is going to be one where you've really got to keep an eye out for pretty much everyone. But it will come to the final best, come down to Abu Dhabi. We're going to be seeing those best drivers out there fighting for a championship, no matter if it's 1, 2, or maybe even 5. We don't know at the moment in time, but that's the excitement of the V1 Malta series.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to be an absolute cracker from start to finish. Anyway, round 3 in a couple of weeks' time. Don't forget that, of course, the rest of the Velocity Esports channel will, of course, feature more races across the esports sphere, across all of the games as well. So give us a subscribe if you haven't already. The V1 Malta series was brought to you by the Velocity Esports team. It's a Velocity Esports racing production alongside Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. We'll be back in just 2 weeks' time. And the Styrian Mountains in Austria. Take care. Ta-ra.